Almost every single character kit in Genshin Impact is extremely complex and very nuanced, so many characters that aren't great when they're released can end up seeing huge improvements down the line with new character synergies that work with them. So today we're going to do exactly that. Here are the top 10 characters that aged like osmanthus wine. Welcome to Jello Impact, where we build and test every single character to help you decide who you want to wish for and build. I've put together all the characters that I think have had really good improvements, or at least characters that I wanted to talk about that have had really good improvements throughout the lifespan of Genshin Impact right here. There's more than 10, so we're going to go through the top 10, which I think belong in these different categories that I've put up here. There's potentially a few more you could argue, but I think I caught them all here. If I missed any big ones, I'll mention them in the pinned comment. I wanted to talk first about characters like Xiao and Hu Tao. I'm pretty sure that these don't belong in the top 10 in terms of characters that age like fine wine, particularly when we look at the definition of fine wine, and that wine starts off tasting pretty bad, and the more you age it, the better it tastes. So you really have to start bad, I think, for a character to age like fine wine. And Xiao and Hu Tao are just they were very top of meta characters when they were released. And some top of meta characters didn't get the tools they needed to stay top of meta, but Xiao and Hu Tao did, with characters like Farina, Shanyun, Yelan, Xiaolonen for Hu Tao, Faruzan for Xiao, lots of stuff that kept them relevant. So good for them, but I don't think that they belong on this list. Ningguang is a character that I don't think will end up making the top 10, depending on how many we actually end up with. She definitely had a huge improvement with the release of Xiaolonen. Any Ningguang mains out there know how much Xiaolonen helped Ningguang. She went from feeling like a complete waste of space character that was, you felt like you were hitting fists against rocks, to actually make any progress with this character in the Abyss. But with Xiaolonen, she actually does real damage. She's not by no means like a top tier DPS, but doing real damage with Ningguang feels awesome. So it's great that we finally have a support with Xiaolonen. Noelle in a similar place, but I think that Noelle already got such an improvement from the likes of Farina that she will probably belong on a higher spot. By the way, if you are into Star Rail, I highly recommend checking out Gotcha Smack's video. I got this idea from him, and they're really entertaining videos. Gotcha Smack is great. So yeah, back to Noelle. She really improved with Farina, and then was able to drop Goro and work with Xiaolonen, and that was awesome. Certainly you don't need a healer to work on a Xiaolonen team, but the additional healing is great for Farina stacks, and overall that was just huge for her. And it's not like that's her only team that can function. She has a couple functioning teams now because of Farina, Xiaolonen, etc. And she just really went from being, yeah, like a nice early game character, and certainly like a good one for people to play through early on, but to now one where if you want to build actually into her and main her, you have real things that you can do. A lot of people probably would have expected this to be the Farina show, where all the characters here are here because Farina made them good. And it's true, Farina did buff some healers, in particular someone like Jean, who just is so much better now than she was. But we've also had a lot of really good new healers that kind of push the other healers that were buffed, but a lot of healers just can't really compete with the likes of Xiaolonen and Shanyun and even Baizhu. But Jean can compete to a degree. She's definitely not like a top tier character, but she went from really seeing a lot less use to now actually being quite good. I just made a Candace video where I talked about how much she has improved. Very impressive. A character that really went from almost nothing to being on a few top teams, being Mualani, Arlecchino, and still the Nilou team. Very impressive improvement from Candace. Similarly, Dea, I wouldn't say improved as much, most particularly because she's not the top choice on a bunch of teams, but she is a great choice. I have guides on both of these characters, recently updated guides, so definitely go check those out. They're pretty recently on my channel. Mona, another character who's improved hugely. I kind of almost want to put her in 0 to hero, but maybe she's not quite hero. I really like her, similar to Candace on Arlecchino and Mualani teams. You can also use her on Neuvillette teams, some Cloran teams, Hu Tao teams, but mostly it's Mualani and Arlecchino, especially with that C1. And now that she's a free character from this 5-star selector, even more accessible. I also have a recent guide on her. Mona has gone through a great improvement. The Dendro aggravate girls. I'm gonna put them all right here. I'm gonna put Lisa a little bit higher. Yoimiya and Keqing both were very underused pre-Dendro, and with Dendro, their thing of hitting frequently and sort of driving Fischl with aggravate reaction really bumped up their usage. Unfortunately, aggravate was always like good in AoE, but worse in single target, especially with Hyper Bloom being such a significant reaction for single target. And aggravate has sort of fallen off a little bit in usefulness. Lisa, however, did get an improvement in that she works with Novelette teams, being a defense reduction specialist, and she can hold Prototype Ember to just get a couple more Farina stacks and comfort. So Lisa aged a little bit better, having a bit more of a supportive role. You could even call that a great improvement, but I think just because it's pretty niche that I'm going to put it a little bit lower. Diluc also goes in great improvement. His Plunge teams with Shenhe, man, they are not to be trifled with. Do not underestimate the power of Plunge Diluc. Really powerful. Plunge is a very strong mechanic, and although some people call it a little bit niche, and it is getting a bit more niche, as Navia has other teams that are better, Hu Tao has some other teams that are better now with Xilonen, it's still really powerful, and Diluc is one of the best at it. Right up there with Zhao, Hu Tao, and Navia for Plunge. In certain scenarios, he can even be better. I kind of want to put him in 0 to hero, but I think the fact that he really relies on another character specifically to do that, he didn't get like multiple other options. But I don't know, we'll pull it up here just because it'll at least be a top 3. Yanfei, I forgot to put her. She goes in solid improvement. I would really say she was just sort of a character. I don't know, maybe this is just me. Maybe she was always pretty good and I just didn't see it. But I feel like her Farina really helped her a lot because she can get AoE vapes, whereas a lot of pyro DPSs sort of struggle with that. Like, her pyro application isn't too fast, and if you're playing it with, you know, Yelan and Farina, and I like Bennett, but you can also use Xilonen, I feel like you can get some AoE vapes here and there, and they just hit like an absolute truck. Plus, she has built-in quality of life that makes her more comfortable to play than characters like Hu Tao, and she's just better than characters like Yoimiya, so she's not like a top tier pick, but I feel like on release, like she was fine, she was good, but just Yelan and Farina really just work so well with her. And not only that, Tome of the Eternal Flow, that's actually big as well because it's really good synergy with her Novelette's signature catalyst. I think Kagura's is pretty good on her as well, but she's just aged really nicely, I think. So I don't know, I just felt like she belongs on this list. I don't know if she makes the top 10 exactly. And then, of course, the top 2, Kuki and Thoma. I don't know who I want to put at number 1. I think we're going to put Thoma at number 2, particularly because I think that he is going to be a bit crept out of this top spot when Moika comes out, because he's still one of the only sources of pyro application from off-field. So yes, he's good in Burgeon, but I feel like not a lot of people play Burgeon. But he's also good in Chevreuse teams with Clorand, and he also can be used in Vape teams with Mualani, giving a little normal attack damage bonus and having his pyro line up perfectly to Vape. He's great with Wanderer, great with Kinich. Yeah, I forgot to mention Dea. That's another improvement for Dea is Kinich and Mualani teams. Obviously, I talked all about my Dea guide, but Thoma really just aged like fine wine. He was so bad in the beginning, and he's not too niche. He's got a bunch of different uses, and that's kind of why I wanted to put him maybe even in number 1 spot. But I think Kuki still holds on to number 1 because not only is she an incredible Hyper Bloom Hyper Bloom procer, she also is very useful in spread with instructors, Key of Kaj Nasut, being able to buff the on-field character or the off-field characters. She's often used in a bit more in C1 Novelette havers. They will often use Kuki for some electrocharge stuff. At least they did before Xilonen. Al-Hytham teams with Farina, and she just started out so poorly and just became the absolute face of Hyper Bloom. And to this day, still a really strong core. Not as dominant as it used to be, but still extremely strong. I was looking at this and I noticed that I actually didn't put any. There is another character I just wanted to mention it at least. Obviously, Yelan didn't start out like poorly. She started out being a top character. So it kind of feels bad to put her on this list, which is more about sort of that 0 to hero characters. But she has just gotten more and more options, especially with Arlecchino and Xilonen. So, you know, she kept up with the meta in terms of her placement in the meta, like all the new metas that come out, except for basically Novelette teams. She has a place on top teams. So it's like limited characters that aged well. You know, Kazuha aged very well, but there is Shilonen to consider. Genshin's sort of in a spot right now where they really like introducing new powerful characters. I do want to call an audible and put in one more character. I think Emily really deserves to be in great improvement. Yes, she was good when she started, but with Mualani and Kinich, I think great improvement makes sense for Emily. I expect her, I have more to say on her in terms of her potential, her future potential. I think that's really interesting to talk about, but for now, I'm going to put her right here. So what is our official top 10? All right, here it is, your top 10 list. I think I'm going to put Emily a little bit lower down because I feel like she started out really, really good, right? She's more like an honorable mention, but I still really want to have her on the list. Yeah. And same with kind of Jean. She was good at the start, then took a dive, then went back up. So there it is, your top 10 Genshin characters that aged like fine wine. I'm sure other people disagree. Let me know who you think belongs on the list or what order you think they belong in. Take care. And make sure to subscribe for the top 10 characters that aged like cocoa goat milk. Take care and bye for now.